Well, welcome. We are going to do our first installment of the theology of the purpose-driven church. And just to let you know and just to reinforce, I truly believe in the purpose-driven church. It's a balanced, strategic philosophy of ministry. But we have to remember, it's a philosophy of ministry and not a theology. Us as church leaders, we have to pray and discern the principles and the theology behind these practices and to put that into practice. So we're just not reduplicating programs, but we are intentionally bringing life change in the lives of people. When I think of church, I think of worship on Sunday mornings. In the North American culture, we get up on a Sunday morning and we go to church. And what do we do there? We worship. There's nothing wrong with this, but I think there's something deeper here. Is we are to worship, and we come together on a Sunday morning and we do have corporate worship. And we do go to a building called the church. But what's the theology? What's the principles behind the biblical purposes of worship? I love what it says in Romans chapter 12, verses 1. I appeal to you, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And by testing, you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Yeah, the church is someplace that we go to on a Sunday morning and we worship, but aren't we the church and not the building? Aren't we to be different than the world? What if we worship in everything that we do? What if we worship more on a Monday in our offices, in our cubicles, in our families, our workplaces, in our neighborhoods? You see, we live in a culture where we are one person on Sunday, but we don't transfer that Monday through Saturday. We are to worship in everything that we do. And when we do, our light shines before everybody to see. I know of a salesman. He was great at what he did. And he was so good, he got promoted into overseeing other salesmen. So he had a sales force. And he had to meet regularly with those salesmen to strategize and all this other stuff. And it was amazing to me that he always met these salesmen at strip clubs. They always had their sales meeting at strip clubs or bars or this, that, the other. And then he also took customers to these places. What's even more amazing is that this individual was also a Sunday school teacher and very active in his church. He wasn't worshiping God in what he did. He would have been a better witness to saying, no, we're going to still strategize. We are going to be the best sales force that we can possibly be, but we don't need that. And when we do that, when we worship God with our lives, not just on a Sunday morning for an hour where we sing some songs, but we worship God with our lives, we'll become salt of the earth. And then when we do come together on a Sunday morning, it's rich, it's thick, it's life-changing. And God's presence is totally in that sanctuary. The amazing thing is this transcends the style of worship. When we are worshiping God Monday through Saturday, when we come on a Sunday morning, it doesn't matter your style. Now, Granted, I truly believe that a contemporary style is more outreach focused, but we are to worship God with our hearts. I love what Paul writes in Colossians 3:17. In whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Everything that we do is worship. When we come, and then we can serve with our gifts, and part of your gifts is possibly leading worship. It becomes so much more meaningful on a Sunday morning. And more life change can happen. I give praise to God that's how he has wired us. So the biblical purpose of worship is what we do Monday through Saturday. And it makes Sunday a lot more meaningful. And it spills into everything. We worship in our small groups, our families, our workplaces, our neighborhoods. God's presence is felt in every aspect of our lives. And we continue to grow through him, through that. Because we give honor where honor is due. And that's in God's throne and not ours.